when the healing has begun. I want you to put on your pretty summer dress, yeah. You can wear your Easter clothes, Sunday bonnet, and all the rest. And I want to make love to you, yes, 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 when the healing has begun. When the healing has begun.
Fucking deadly, mate.
All right, look.
Started.
Don't fucking...
I'm just playing me loose, man, you know what
I swear to you, you fucking grenade out, I'm after you, right, straight away.
Hell, man,
So
I'm
fuck
just
off,
playing me
right?
fucking loose, you know what I mean? Look, son, look at here. Here. Playing Zaslam, innit? All right, mate, you're
man.
fucking rubber, yeah.
Thanks. Oh, yeah, no, no. Yeah, hold that, will you?
Yeah.
Thanks. Come here. Anton, fucking hell, man. Come on. Give me the keys. What are you fucking at, man? Oh, fuck's sake. What are you at, man?
I'm sorry, man, I'm just fucking dying sick, I am, you know what I mean? Here, look, I'll help you. There's all your money. I'm just dying sick and all. Look, there's 20 cents, look at. Here.
Look, don't fucking rob me, I'm down there trying to fucking make a living like anyone
the
else.
two of us is on the streets here, man. I'm sorry, right? I'm sorry, man. Just fucking be alright. You're rapper, you know what I mean?
If you want money, just ask me for it. Don't have me chase you all the way up the street for it.
Wanna give us that $5 then, there?
Here.
How's our ma?
She's dead, man.
Oh, how's our outlet? Fair play there, right?
I'll see you later, right?
Yeah, look at. There's €2, look. Fair play there, right?
See you. Good luck, man.
Nice one.
Scratching out the surface now, and I'm trying hard to work it out. And so much has gone misunderstood, and this mystery only leads to doubt. And I didn't understand when you reached down to take my hand. And if you have something to say, you better say it now. 'Cause this is what you've waited for. Your chance to even up the score. And as these shadows fall on me now, I'll win somehow. Yeah. 'Cause I'm picking up a message, Lord.
Thanks. 10 cent. Brilliant. Thanks.
Excuse me?
Sorry.
Big issue?
Can't afford it.
This song you just played, you write it?
Working on it.
It's not an established song?
No, it's not an established song.
How come you're not playing during daytime? I see you every day.
You know, during the day, people want to hear songs they know, just songs that they recognise. I mean, otherwise I wouldn't make any money. I play these songs at night. They wouldn't listen.
I listen.
Yeah, but you give me 10 cent.
Well, you do it for money then? Why don't you get a job in a shop?
I'll have a job in a shop. Listen, I'm going to get back to this, yeah? Nice to meet you.
Who'd you write this song for, please?
No one.
Bullshit? Where is she?
She's gone.
She's dead?
No, she's not dead. She's gone.
You love her still?
Jesus, man.
You're over her. Rubbish. No one who wrote this song is over her. I'm telling you. You play this marvelous song to her, you get her back.
I don't want her back.
I see. What shop you working?
I work in a Hoover repair shop.
A Hoover?
You know, like a vacuum cleaner.
You fix vacuum cleaners?
I do.
I have a broken vacuum cleaner. You fix it for me?
Yeah.
I bring it tomorrow then?
Okay.
This is great. Tomorrow.
Right.
Okay, bye.
Good luck.
You have broken me all the way down, down upon my knees. And you have broken me all the way now. You'll be the last you'll see. Some
Hi, this is
fight
Catherine. Leave a message
you
and I'll get back to you.
gave when I pushed you away from me, and every morning when you turn in, I'll be far to see. And you have broken me all the way down.
That job's really complexion now, that, yeah?
Okay, you'll be the last
I'm gonna head into town.
you'll see.
You sure this Ralphie? What'll I get for dinner?
The fish, maybe. And what chance had we got when we missed every shot for me? And in the morning,
How are you? How's it going?
I bring in my Hoover.
All right. What's wrong with it?
It is fact. It doesn't suck up the dirt.
Well, listen, there's nothing I can do. I don't have any of my tools or nothing with me. And I'm going to be break now. Can you bring it in tomorrow or something?
No, I bring it today.
Yeah, but there's nothing I can do with it, love. I don't have my tools or anything. It's like I'd have to bring it home.
If I come on break, you have a look at it at least.
Yeah, but you don't
I
understand.
come with you then. On lunch.
Yeah, all right.
Yes, we
Yeah.
go together.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You hungry?
Oh, he's hungry.
So, you know a bit about music then?
My father used to play in the orchestra back at home. He played violin. But he got arthritis then and he killed himself.
Really?
But before he go, he teach me how to play piano. It's not so hard on the fingers, he said.
Do you get to play much?
No, I don't have a piano at home. I can't get one in Ireland. It's so much money. I can't afford it.
Yeah, it's expensive, all right.
I play in a piano shop. This man lets me play 1 hour per day at lunch.
Somewhere around here?
You want to hear me play?
Yeah.
Now?
Yeah.
Okay. Can we come in? This is the man I was telling you about. He's a real gentleman.
Right.
Okay for me to play today?
Yeah, that's fine.
Thanks.
Not the baby Yamaha, though. She's sold.
Okie dokie. Now, which one today? That kind of thing.
It's amazing. Did you write that?
No, Mendelssohn did.
It's good.
He's good, yeah. Play me another of your songs,
No,
please.
not here.
Why? Here, people doesn't mind.
Do you think you'd be all right?
Yes.
Okay. I'll put that there, yeah? This is in C, yeah?
Yeah, I can see that.
So it goes da, it goes da, 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 da. Yeah? And then there's a bit in it. Can you do that? Brilliant. And then there's another part that goes yeah? And then the chorus, that's so you have those two bits, and the chorus goes da 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 ba 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 da da. That's it. Perfect. Brilliant. So do you want to give a spin?
Yes. Try
Okay.
it.
2, 3, 4. I don't know you, but I want you all the more for that. through me and always fool me, and I can't react. Let me change here. In games that never amount to more than they're meant will play themselves out. Holding the chorus. Take this sinking boat and point it home. We've still got time. Raise your hopeful voice. You had the choice. You made it now. Falling slowly, eyes that know me, and I can't go back. And moods that take me and erase me, and I'm painted black. Well, you have suffered enough and warred with yourself. It's time that you won. Yeah. Take this sinking boat and point it home. We've still got time. Raise your hopeful voice. You had the choice. You made it now. Take this sinking boat and point it home. We've still got time. Raise your hopeful voice. You had the choice. You made it now. Falling slowly, sing your melody. I'll sing it calling lost to Lord. I moved back in about a year ago, not to be mad, or just to help me out, you know.
So tell me about her.
You be mad?
No, the girl. The special girl you write this song for.
No.
Come on. What did she do to you?
Well, 10 years ago, I fell in love with an Irish girl. She took my heart, but
but she went and screwed some guy that she knew. And now I'm in Dublin with a broken heart. Oh, broken-hearted Hoover fixer sucker guy. Oh, broken-hearted Hoover fixer sucker guy. One day I'll go there and win her once again. But until then, I'm just a sucker of a guy.
So she's with him now? No. Where is she?
She's an old London town, living somewhere around Chiswick. I miss her, it's just,
You're not gonna go get her? No.
Fuck her, she's gone. Fuck her, she's gone forever. She fucking up! Sorry. She fucking up. She fucking up. And now she's gonna die.
Give us the sharp edge there, son. And the Phillips. Come on.
Your son is a very talented man, sir.
Well, he should be. You're trained him myself.
Oh, no, I meant the songs.
Oh, right. Is he?
Very.
Okay, that's done. Sorry to go back with you. It was just a belt. So
Okay.
it should be all right now.
Thank you. How much do I owe you?
Oh, you're grand, Jeff. It's just free.
Nothing's for free. How much?
Say €5, love.
Okay. I'm gonna head upstairs there. Is there anything else you need?
Ah, no, grand.
Okay.
A pleasure to meet you, sir.
And you.
Take care.
Boy.
Come on. There we go.
Wow. Can you transfer stuff on disc for me so I can listen?
Yeah.
I have to go now.
Do you want to stay?
What do you mean?
Stay the night.
What? Fuck this. Thanks for the Hoover. I'll
See you.
see you around.
Fuck.
Paris? Paris?
How are you?
Hey.
How's it going? Where are you going? I wanted to give you the CDs that I made for you. I'm just really lonely, and you're gorgeous, and I fucked up. I'm sorry. But I don't know what to say, but it won't happen again.
You have a CD player?
Yeah. Here you go. Batteries are pretty low, but it should work.
I give it back.
No problem. Keep it.
I have to go now. I'll talk to you later.
Do you not want to get a cup of tea or something? I'd love to just talk to you a bit more.
I have responsibilities. I have to go home.
Is it okay if I walk along with you a bit? Yeah?
Yeah.
Cool. Cool. So how was it today?
It's selling good. And today it's a really good day for me because I got a job in a big house cleaning. This lady's gonna pay me some money, so I'm very happy.
That's brilliant. I'm delighted.
This is where I live.
Oh, yeah? Cool. Right then.
Do you wanna come in?
Can I? Yeah? Cool.
Hi guys,
Hello.
how are you today?
Not bad, not bad.
How was work?
It's great.
See you later. Moje zlatíčko. Ahoj. No, kytičky. No. Ahoj. Kytička. No. Honey, pojď se.
Ahoj, jsi přišla?
This is my friend, this is my mom.
Harry. Nice to meet you. How's it going?
Já jsem unavená dneska. Hrozně.
This is my daughter, Ivanka. Come on. Come on.
Harry, Ivanka. Hello.
Byli jste v tom parku dneska?
No byli jsme, ale bylo hodně zima, tak jsme se vrátili zpátky, protože byla unavená už, tak jsme šli domů spát. Večeři, já ji půjdu udělat teda. Večeři?
Sorry.
That's dinner. Do you want to stay for dinner?
Yeah, thank you.
Will sit down?
Yeah, cheers.
Vy jste dneska do toho parku?
Tak to bude hotové, posaďte se,
Jo,
já
taky.
chviličku udělám. Chtěla jsem se tě zeptat, jak dlouho se znáte, vy jste se potkali.
Před pár dnama. Na Gráfostí, že prodávám ty časopisy, tak on hraje na kytaru.
Tak, no je pěkný, jako líbí se mi.
Well, what you say?
She says you're handsome.
So what?
Says you're handsome.
How do I say thanks?
Díky.
Tiki.
Není zač.
Yes, you're welcome.
Cool, thanks.
Try to speak a little English, man.
No, thank you.
Careful. Careful, Ivanka. Don't do that.
Oh, she's grand, she's grand. Where's our dad?
He doesn't live here.
Oh, no.
He's at home.
Okay.
He's there from next door.
Hi.
They come in to watch telly.
Yeah.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
There was only one telly in the building. We watched First City together.
First city we love.
We learn English for First City.
Are you not pregnant?
How are you, man? What's the story?
Just put her in there.
Okay. Here we go, dear. Oh,
She likes you. You have no lyrics for this one? It's really good, I like it.
I've got a few, but they're not right.
Huh?
I've got a few, but they're not right. What? Do you like it?
It's great.
Would you be into trying to write lyrics for?
Really? I could?
Yeah, do you like that idea?
Yeah.
Cool. That'd be good.
I can keep machine and write it?
Yeah, do. I was having a bit of trouble with it. It's too romantic for me.
It is romantic. You have a romantic streak.
I used to have a romantic streak.
When?
When I was your age, I suppose.
Yeah, I see. You're an old man now.
Yeah, dying. Cynical.
You have to go now.
Go.
Thanks for the Hoover and food and songs.
No problem. Thanks for the company. I needed it.
Me too.
Right. You don't want to go for a light coffee or a walk or something, no?
I can't. See you.
Right. See you.
Fuck you, batteries. I'll pay you back.
Are you really here? Or am I dreaming? I can't tell dream from true. For it's been so long since I have seen you. I can hardly remember your face anymore. When I get really lonely and the distance causes only silence, I think of you smiling with pride in your eyes, lover that sighs. If you want me, satisfy me. If you want me, satisfy me. Are you really sure that you believe me when others say I lie? I wonder if you could ever despise me when you know I really try to be a better one, to satisfy you, for you're everything to me, and I'll do what you ask me if you let me be.
escalator, and little cracks they escalated from making circles, lies, breaking. When will you learn? When will you learn? I think it's time we give it up and figure out what's stopping us from breathing easy and talking straight. The way is clear if you're ready now. The volunteer is slowing down and taking time to save himself. The little cracks they escalated, and before we knew it was too late for making circles until you're moving too fast for me, and I can't keep up with you. Maybe if you slow down for me, I could see you're only telling lies, breaking us down with your lies. When will you little cracks they escalated before we knew it was too late for making circles until you're moving too fast for me, and I can't keep up with you. Maybe if you slow down for me, I could see you're only telling lies, breaking us down with your lies. When will you learn? So plant the thought and watch it grow. Wind it up and let it go.
How are you?
Hi.
How's it going?
How are you?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
How are you?
I'm gonna go to London. I've decided.
Good.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, it's good. It makes sense.
Well done. When are you going?
I'm gonna go Monday.
Wow, that's soon. No, you'll get your girlfriend back and you'll get your record deal and become famous. Good.
But
Very
listen,
good.
I was thinking before I go, I want to make a recording of a few songs, a couple of songs I was playing you, and I really liked the way you played and you were singing. So, I mean, do you feel like, would you be into playing along, like coming and playing on?
I would sing and play?
Yeah.
I'd love that.
Really? Cool. So you'd be in my band for a few days.
Yeah.
Well, that's the first thing. That's the first thing I've got sorted out. Now I just need to sort everything else out.
All right, guys, welcome. Now, so let me give you the tour. So that is your live rooms in there. This is a new desk. You got your hard drive and you got your outboard gear. Now, all in all, we're talking about $3,000 for a weekend long.
3?
Yeah, $3,000. That's pretty good.
You must be crazy. 3,000.
Well, have a look around. You've everything you need.
What do you think? Is it good? I'll give you one.
I'm sorry.
Have
Listen,
you heard this guy's songs?
I haven't yet. No.
He's great.
Okay, but listen, I can fill this place in an hour.
1.5 then. That's my limit.
We can talk about 2.
We don't talk. We shake. We shake on 2, yeah? Shake now?
All right.
2,000.
She drives a hard bargain.
She's a tough cookie.
So you like this shop? I buy all my clothes here. It's good for me, you know? Cheap. Nice fashions.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. That's good. That will do.
You like it?
You're gorgeous.
Where can we go?
When you reach down and take my hand, and if you have something to say,
The quality is poor, but if we can get a professional tape, I'm satisfied that he can secure a lucrative deal. You take it home. You listen to it. You play it to your boss. I'm sure you can get him to approve.
Can I show you something?
I wanna be free. I wanna be me. I want you to be you. Do you want me to be me too? I think you do. I think you do.
Listen, lads. How's it going?
How's it going? All right.
Good. How was it today? Is it slow? Because it feels a bit
Well,
slow in
have
the
a look
past few
there
days.
yourself.
Yeah. Is that it? Is that it?
That's it. That's it. That's all it's going at the moment.
Listen, I wanted to ask you, myself and herself are making a tape
How's it going? All right.
of a few songs down in Samson Studios, and I was just wondering if he's around next weekend if you'd be interested in doing it.
They're recording.
Bit of recording, yeah.
Yeah. Doing Lizzie stuff or?
No, it's not Lizzie. It's my own songs.
We only do Lizzie. Really. It's one of our things.
Right.
That sort of stuff, is it? Sort of rocky Lizzie stuff or?
No, it's not.
Yeah, it's singer-songwriter stuff.
It's kind of singer-songwriter, yeah. Kind
Is it any good?
It's great.
Is it? Well, look, like I said, I don't really know much about them, but they seem like nice people.
Yeah, I just have to call my mother first. And then we go.
Great.
Áno, prosím tě, postaráš se o Ivanu, když sama ještě chvilku v městě? No, jenom chvilku, moc dlouho ne. Tak jo, prosím tě do postele, tak jo? Jo. Aj. Díky, čau.
Okay, come on, we can go.
Cool.
What is it?
Food's ready, everybody. Get your plates ready.
You lads.
Come on in, kids. Take a seat.
Everything all right there, folks?
Yeah, brilliant. Enjoying the party?
Yeah, great to see you here. Can you sing? You can't sing, you're out.
There's one request I'll ask of you when your liberty gain. Remember Mitchell far away, a convict bound in shame.
Mine that once held this heart of mine.
And I love her so. I wouldn't trade her for gold. Walking on moonbeams, I was born with a silver spoon, and I'm gonna be free. I'm walking on moonbeams, staring out to sea. And if a door be closed, then a row of homes start building. Tear your curtains down, for sunlight is like gold. And you better be you, and do what you can do.
How are you?
What are you doing here?
I just came out. Do you want to go for a spin?
What's your bike?
It's my dad's. He absolutely loves it. But I robbed it on him for the day. If he knew, he'd kill me.
Would he?
See the fancy spin, no?
I'd love to, but I have to go to work.
That's cool. Another time, yeah? Just thought while I had it, I'd drop up and see if you're into going out.
Could you have me back by lunch?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Fancy it? Great. Brilliant.
And I love her so. I wouldn't trade her for
You're what? You're married.
Was it surprising?
Fuck's sake. Yeah. When?
2 years ago, when I find out I'm pregnant with Ivana.
So where is he?
He's back in Czech Republic. It's over now, and, I come here on my own.
Man. You all right? What's the check for Ocean?
Otsan.
Otsan.
Pretty much the same.
Otsan. So what are you going to do?
I don't know. There's such distance between me and him. He's so much different to me and so much older. It doesn't really work. I'm fine on my own, you know? It's just, I don't want Ivana to grow up without a father.
What's the check for do you love him?
Mireisha?
Miliaisha. So, Miliaisha?
Miriutebe.
What?
Come on, let's go.
What'd you say?
You
Tell
couldn't
me.
teach me how to drive the bike now, yeah?
No way.
Yeah.
No.
See, come on, can I have a go?
No.
Please.
No, leave it alone, will you?
But teach me how to drive it, will you? Come on, just
No,
once.
it's not mine. My dad go fucking crazy.
But he's not
Be
here
careful,
now.
will you? Be careful, for fuck's sake.
He's not, look, he's not here now. Just
Look,
teach
me
me.
dad, look, no.
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 Please.
No. My dad go bleeding mental. He totally loves this thing.
Yeah, but you drive it.
Yeah, he doesn't know I have it.
He doesn't?
No.
Well, then he won't know I had it too.
No. You can't have a go on it.
Just once.
No.
Turn it on for me.
No. No.
Come on, give us the keys. I'll do it myself.
The key's in it.
Okay, thank you for the ride. I'll see you tomorrow, yeah? For
Okay.
rehearsals.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Lately, when I get back, there's a thing I know. Everything comes to you way to go. Even the heart has something to learn.
Thanks, Dad.
Yeah, all right, guys, this is Eamon. He's going to take care of you for the weekend. Eamon, this is everyone. Kit set up. Piano's waiting for you in the live room. Tea and coffee in the kitchen as you came in. Help yourselves, you'll need plenty. And there is a nice little burrito place around the corner if you want a snack. All right?
Great.
Okay, Eamon, leave it to you. Good luck, everyone. Enjoy, and I might pop in later, all right?
Cheers, man.
Cheers, thanks.
Okay, guys, good to meet you. We have a few little bits and pieces to set up. I want to check the drums inside.
We've already set up the kit.
Yeah, I just want to, check them for sounding.
No, I check them every day. It's fine.
Oh, okay, yeah. We need to set up mics on them for recording, yeah?
Aye.
Have you done much recording?
No.
Right, let's get cracking.
Yeah.
Okay, drums, you want to... Yeah, no, I can't do it, man. No. I'm stuck here in the studio with this bunch of fucking oddballs.
Just hang on a sec, just one. Okay, are you ready, Rock? Everybody ready?
Yeah, tune us.
Cool. So, Al and Timmy, on the second verse, this is pretty much simple enough thing. It's in 5/4, and the second verse, I'll give you a nod to come in there, yeah? Is that all right? And you're in from the top with me, yeah? Okay. And then and you know what you're doing. Of course. All right then. So whenever you're ready, yeah.
All right. Yeah. No, look, I gotta go. I think they're ready for Right, later. Okay, we're ready for one.
Are you sure you're ready?
Okay, listen now for the click track, everybody. And away we go. This is track 1, take 1, yeah.
All right, lads, here we go. This is it, yeah?
So, if you want something and you call, then I'll come running to fight, and I'll be at your door when there's nothing worth running for. When your mind's made up, when your mind's made up, there's no point trying to change it. When your mind's made up, when your mind's made up, there's no point trying to stop it. You see, you're just like everyone. When the shit falls, all you wanna do is run away and hide all by yourself. When there's forfeit, there's nothing else. When your mind's made up, when your mind's made up, there's no point trying to change it. When your mind's made up, when your mind's made up, there's no point even talking. When your mind's made up, when your mind's made up, there's no point trying to fight it. When your So, if you ever want something and you call, then I'll come running.
Okay. Wow. That was nice. Did you write that?
Yeah.
You must have fallen from the sky. You must have shattered in your own way. You brought so many to life.
Okay. What do you think?
I think it's fucking weird.
With a couple of little tech bits, we can probably fix them, but, you know, it's 4 o'clock in the morning, so it's up to you guys. If you want to push through or go for another one.
I'd love to keep going if everybody's is into it.
Get a cup of tea or something for us, do we? Want to get a cup of tea or something?
Yeah, you want to take 10 or 15, yeah.
Sure.
And I'll tweak what I can, and you guys take 10.
As why do you think there are no blonde priests? Never thought about that. No.
This is great.
Let's go.
Good. I don't think we're supposed to be here, though.
That's all right. This is beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a beautiful piano, like Baldwin. It's a perfect piano.
Yeah.
Mm.
Play some of your songs.
Mm.
Go on.
They're all half written and more ideas.
Go on, I'd love to hear one.
Okay, I have one, but it's not finished, and I don't really.
Just play it right
Okay,
now.
but the lyrics are very rough. Okay.
Be great.
Okay.
Walking up the hill tonight, and you have closed your eyes. I wish I didn't have to make all those mistakes and be wise. But please try to be patient and know that I'm still learning. I'm sorry that you have to see the strength inside me burning. And where are you, my angel now? Don't you see me crying? I know that you can't do it all, but you can't say I'm not trying. And I'm letting myself down by satisfying you. I wish that you could see.
Did you write that for your husband?
Yes, I did, and he didn't like it. Yeah, he's an idiot.
play to London with me. Come on, we'll write loads of songs and live in a nice flat. You can bring Ivana over, it'll be brilliant. Come on.
Yeah, we go to London and no one will ever find us again.
No one.
No
We'll
one.
have a brilliant band. We'll sell out those places and it'll be great.
And we'll make an album together.
Brilliant. I'd love that. Come on.
Yeah, and I'll do the backing vocals on it.
Yeah, and play the piano.
Uh,
Come on, serious.
Can I bring my mother? No, we should go back to work.
Yeah.
Okay.
What day is it today?
Monday. I think it's time we did the car test.
What's the car test, Emma?
Well, we've been listening back on these big studio speakers, so I think it's time we had a go on some shitty speakers. So, let's go for a spin and have a listen to my car.
Great, man.
Go for a ride? Yeah? Let's go. All right. We'll clear this up later. Really? Right.
So, if you ever want something and you call, then I'll come running to fight, and I'll be at your door when there's nothing worth running for. When your mind's made up, when your mind's made up, there's no point trying to change it. When your mind's made up, when your mind's made up, there's no point trying to stop it. You see, you're just like everyone. When the shit falls, all you wanna do is run away and hide all by yourself. When there's fall, there's nothing else. When your mind's made up, when your mind's made up, there's no point trying to change it. When your mind's made up, when your mind's made up, there's no point even talking. When your mind's made up.
There they are.
Listen, man, fucking
Well done.
it sounds fucking brilliant. Thanks a lot for your
Lots of
help.
luck with those, all right?
Nice one.
I just pushed the buttons. It was great.
Nice
I
one, man.
enjoyed
Thank
it.
you. Cool.
You two go and get some sleep. Huh?
Right, nice one, man. Thanks very, very much.
See you.
So this is it.
Yeah,
We did it.
sounds great.
Does, doesn't it?
Could I have one?
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Thank you. Gotta go this way.
Really? Where you going?
Home?
Do you don't want to come back? I'll make you breakfast. We can listen to the CD, you know?
No, I have to go see Ivana and organize things. So do you.
Yeah.
You're leaving.
to London. What do you have to organise? What's that about?
I spoke to my husband last night. He's coming over.
Ah, brilliant. Fair play. That's great. I'm really
Good.
happy for you, yeah.
I'll try to make it work. It's for the best.
Yeah. Come back and hang out, have a cup of tea. It's the last day. We'll hang out. Whatever, breakfast or whatever. Listen to the tunes. Or you can come over later. Whatever.
For what?
What do you mean? What? Like, just hang out. Just come and hang out.
Oh, we don't know work. Why would I come over? We just hanky-panky if I come now. What?
Hanky-panky. It won't be hanky-panky.
You know it would. That would be nice.
Would it?
Be interesting.
Would it?
Be worthless though.
Come back later.
Okay, I'll come.
Yeah?
Come later, yeah?
Brilliant. You sure? Brilliant. Right then. Cool. See you after. Well done.
You too.
Well, what do you think? Do you like it? Well, it's just a demo, you know. It's just
Fucking brilliant.
Really?
Fantastic stuff. That'll be it, no question. When are you off?
What?
I've a few £100 for you. For a deposit on a place. I'll come over and see you when you're settled in. When do you think you'll be able to go?
Go tomorrow, Dad.
Good man. About time.
Will you be all right?
What do you mean? It's all right for years before you came along, wasn't it?
I don't have to go now. I can put this thing off for a few months.
Go. And the best of luck, son.
Thanks, Dad.
Make your ma proud. Now play it again.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah. I recorded a few songs.
Oh, yeah? What are they like?
They're good. I'm happy with them.
Great. I've missed you.
Yeah, me too.
Do you want me to meet you at the airport?
No. I'll come find you.
I'm glad you've decided to come.
Listen, I'm going to get cut off here, right? Money's running out.
Hurry up.
How are you?
Hello, Anton.
Ahoy.
Ahoy.
Is herself in?
No.
Oh, really?
No, she's impossible.
You don't know where she is, do you?
She's working. She's coming back evening.
Oh, okay. Will you tell her I'm going away? Will you tell her I'll call her?
Oh, promise. Sorry, no telephone here.
You don't have a telephone?
No telephone here, no.
I'll write to her, yeah?
You write a letter?
Yeah, I'll write a letter, yeah.
You go?
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
See you, Ivana.
Bye.
Oh. Ciao.
Sorry. Bye.
Hey,
how's it going?
Could I have a word with you about something back here?
Yeah, sure.
I don't know you, but I want you all the more for that. And words fall through me and always fool me, and I can't react in games that never amount to more than they're meant will play themselves out. Take this sinking boat and point it home. We've still got time. 1, 2, 3. Part of me has died, and what would turn? Part of me wants to hide.